Welcome to the Retiring Canada podcast, where our mission is to educate and empower you to make the most informed, rational, and productive financial decisions. Hosted by certified financial planner, author, and chartered investment manager Michael Isbister. You'll go behind the scenes to uncover the tips and strategies to help you invest smarter, optimize your retirement income, and reduce the amount of tax you pay. Michael is an investment advisor with Fundamental Wealth, a trade name of Harbourfront Wealth Management, a CERO dealer. And now, here's your host, Michael Isbister.
Hello everyone, and welcome again to the Retiring Canada podcast. In today's episode, we're going to discuss spending down your retirement savings with the intent of leaving a minimal estate. Specifically, we're going to discuss 5 key considerations for those of you with this goal, core retirement planning assumptions that can make or break your plan, the one thing you can control in retirement, understanding your willingness to pivot and change if needed, lessons from Glenn, and lastly, as always, a few action items for you to consider. Over the years, I've been fortunate enough to work with hundreds of individuals and families plan for retirement, build a solid decumulation plan, and develop an estate plan that aligns with their legacy goals. And while some families may want to focus on a legacy, that is, leaving funds to their children, grandchildren, or charitable organization, others want to spend as much of their retirement funds as possible and have minimal desire to leave bequests after their passing. Some have adult children who are completely self-sufficient and don't need the funds, while others don't have any children, so there may not be a reason to leave an estate. If you find yourself in this camp, creating a retirement plan where you spend nearly all of your funds can be tricky. And there are a number of planning considerations that you should be aware of if this is your goal. So today, let's go through 5 things you should be considering while developing your retirement plan if your goal is to spend down nearly all of your savings and minimize your estate. Number 1, when will you die? Okay. I know, a silly question, obviously, but it really is a big deal. If we know exactly what day you will pass, planning your spending so that the last check bounces is pretty easy, but we all know this isn't reality. When we build retirement plans, we utilize the assumption guidelines set out by FP Canada. In their last published paper, they outlined a mortality table utilizing data from Statistics Canada that projects the probability of reaching a certain age based on your current age and gender. I had a look at the analytics for this podcast, and nearly 90% of my listeners are between the ages of 50 and 60 plus. So, if you are a husband and wife duo and you're both currently between the ages of 55 and 65 years old, there's a 50% chance that at least one of you will live to age 94. If you're a single male age 60, you have a 50% chance of living to age 89. And if you're a single female age 60, you have a 50% probability of reaching age 91. Now, I will leave a link of the 2025 projection assumption guidelines so that you can view the mortality table yourself. But here's an excerpt from this document. We are aware that the use of this mortality table will tend to overestimate life expectancy for people with fragile health or for smokers, for example. The financial planner should have a fulsome discussion with the clients regarding their individual life expectancy before a long-term planning horizon is selected. Also, if these probabilities of survival are used to make different analyses than retirement income projections, such as to undertake scenario analysis for claiming public pensions at different ages, the financial planner will be able to use these probabilities of survival to make varying life expectancy assumptions to model different outcomes. It is interesting to note that hereditary factors are not significant in predicting life expectancy, while a client's income, education, and lifestyle choices such as use of tobacco can have a significant impact. Statistics Canada research published in 2015 found that non-smokers can expect to gain about 3 years of life expectancy, while the heaviest smokers stand to lose about 9 years of life expectancy. In other words, average life expectancy for Canadians is reduced from 82 years to 73 years for adults who smoke. It is also interesting to observe that as advancements in medical science occur, those who are younger today may have the opportunity to benefit from these advancements for a longer period than those who are older today. These effects can be seen in the 50% column in probability of survival table in the document by the initial decline in life expectancy as the current age increases. So, for example, a 30-year-old today has a higher life expectancy than their 60-year-old parent. This decline in life expectancy reverses at around age 80 because those who have already reached an older age today are more likely to continue to benefit from increased longevity. End quote. The key takeaway here is that we need to plan for your longevity, which means we need to be conservative with a drawdown approach that factors in potentially living into your 90s. To state the obvious, it means your money will need to last longer, inflation will have a greater impact, and the need for long-term care or retirement home living increases. Number 2, what is your desired retirement paycheck? How much do you want to see in your bank account every month? When we model our clients' retirement spending, we typically split their spending in 3 distinct frames: the go-go years, slow-go years, and no-go years. The go-go years are often defined by the first decade or more where you have your health, time, and your newfound freedom. It's during this time when many choose to spend their funds, enjoy the finer things in life, and check off a few bucket list trips. As they begin to age and move into those slow-go years, perhaps mobility has started to decrease, travel is a bit more cumbersome, or insurance is just too expensive, and they began to find a more comfortable rhythm in their day-to-day spending and lives. Typically, we may see spending decrease slightly during this time as as life becomes a little bit more simpler. And then lastly are the no-go years. During this time, you will likely be pretty routine, and nearly all of your major expenditures and expenses are behind you. That said, this is the time where long-term care expenses, whether to age in place and upgrade your home or transition to a retirement community, may become a reality. In some cases, this time of life can still be relatively expensive, as some retirement communities can reach well over $5,000 to even $10,000 or more for a month for a couple. This monthly expense will depend heavily on your location, the level of service you require, and overall desirability of the community you want to join. When we now zoom out and look at your spending over the next 30 to 40 years of retirement, we have 3 distinct spending goals that all need to keep pace with inflation. Having these numbers, along with our longevity expectation and the other assumptions like expected returns and taxation, this will now begin to give us a good foundation for building a drawdown plan that gets you close to a zero value at death that's within reason. Number 3, this one kind of piggybacks off my last point, knowing your retirement paycheck, and that is, would you consider modifying your spending in the future? Now, most retirees want a static amount deposited into their bank account monthly that goes up over time with inflation. But for those of you who want to be a bit more aggressive when drawing down your investments, this may also require you to pivot and defer some spending if, say, the markets took a substantial decrease, and this decrease materially impacted the drawdown strategy. This type of thinking is called the guardrail approach to retirement income planning. Now, I did a whole episode a few years back on this kind of dynamic withdrawal strategy, episode 14 titled Retirement Income Guardrails. This may be especially valuable to the decumulators out there who want to spend as much as possible during their go-go years, with the understanding that expenses, trips, or spending may need to be deferred in the short term to ensure income longevity. At the end of the day, what you spend is one of the largest, if not the largest, determinant of your long-term retirement success. If you want to spend more in those early years, you may need to consider pivoting and reducing spending to ensure you don't run out of money later in life. Number 4, at what point are you comfortable selling your home? Now, I'm making the assumption here that you do in fact own a home. Once you have worked through your retirement accounts, perhaps sold a rental property or two, there may come a time where you will need to sell your primary residence to unlock its equity to fund the slow-go and no-go years of your retirement. Now, of course, you don't need to sell your home if you find yourself in the position where your retirement assets can sustain your spending, but this episode is for those of you who want to spend to the point where this is a real scenario that we need to plan for. Many Canadians have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars locked up as equity in their homes. So if the goal is to spend down your net worth, we need to be aware of when this strategy may need to kick into place. Now, one option could be to establish a line of credit on the home and draw out the equity from your home to fund your month-to-month spending needs. Now, personally, I'm not the biggest fan of this strategy as I think it brings in a lot of risk and leverage that may not be necessary. Rather, consider at what point you would sell your primary residence and either downsize and purchase a property or segue into renting or retirement community living. So if we take a step back and think about this, in broad terms, we're assuming that you are drawing down on your retirement accounts and living off the income needed over and above your fixed pensions. And then at some point, you are knowingly drawing down your retirement accounts to near zero while you're still alive with the implicit goal of selling your home for the next leg of your retirement income needs. Now, there is a ton of risk baked into this. Like, what if the housing market decreases and your home is worth less than you assumed? What is the impact of the closing costs and fees when you do sell? What if there is a major renovation or repair that needs to take place when you're getting ready to sell? What if no one wants to buy your house and you're actually stuck holding the property? You will want to be very careful as to not pigeonhole yourself into a very sticky situation. Lastly, number 5 is having a well thought out tax and decumulation plan. When your goal is to spend your funds down and get the most out of your go-go years, how and when you take the money out, the amount of tax you pay versus how much you keep, and timing the start of your government pensions could not be more important. I would argue that for those of you with this more aggressive spending goal, you are much more at risk of running out of money than the cohort of people who plan on leaving a little bit of inheritance, which obviously sounds pretty obvious, but worth repeating. The room for error is tight, and the decisions you make today or choose not to make today and over the years will have a very real impact on your ability to stay retired. It will be crucial for you to be updating your plan every year at a minimum and be willing to make spending changes in the short term based on material changes that impact your income longevity. This is where an ongoing relationship with a retirement planning specialist can help ensure things don't go off the rails. A few weeks back, I attended a funeral for my late step-grandfather, and I left that day with a new perspective on life. First off, he was one of a kind, and I can say I never truly witnessed him get upset, raise his voice, utter a discouraging word, gossip, or even be grumpy. He was so consistent that it really made me reflect on my own relationships. He was really consistent in an inconsistent world, and I will always admire him for that. Lastly, the pastor delivered a message that I felt was really impactful, and I am sure many of you have maybe heard this before, but it gave me pause, and I'm going to do my best to get that message across. If you walk through a cemetery, every headstone has 2 dates: the day someone was born and the day they died. And between those 2 dates is a dash. That tiny dash represents an entire life. every experience, every relationship, every risk, every moment that mattered. When we talk about retirement, we often focus on the numbers, the savings, the timelines, the plans, and those things matter. But the truth is, retirement isn't really about the numbers. It's about the dash. It's about how we choose to spend the years we're given, the people we invest in, the things we pursue, and the life we decide to live. Because at the end of it all, the dash is what tells the story. Rest in peace, Glenn. That'll do it for today. Here are your action items for today's episode. First off, if your goal is to spend down your accounts as much as possible, I urge you to make a plan. I would consider this goal a more aggressive approach to retirement income planning, as you really do have a small margin for error. Be sure to go through, the what if scenarios, like decreasing your spending over the short term to potentially selling your home earlier to fund retirement. The more you go through this exercise, the easier a potential shift will be in the future. Next, be sure to utilize strong assumptions when you're doing your planning. When we build our retirement plans, they are inherently more conservative. And as I like to say to clients, we don't want to look through rose-colored glasses. This means we may assume you live longer, that inflation is higher, and that your returns are lower, and maybe markets may rattle your retirement plan over the short term. At a baseline, all retirees should have this kind of diligence incorporated into their plan. And for those of you who want to aggressively spend down your accounts, these are the assumptions you need to be aware of and be comfortable with. Because as you change these assumptions, the ripple effect is massive, especially over a 30 or 40-year retirement. Lastly, when you reach retirement, what are the things you want to experience? What are the things you would sincerely regret not doing given the chance? Retirement is your time to live fully and enjoy the sacrifices that got you there, because we're all just living it in the dash. All right, so that'll do it for today. Make sure you follow us on all of our socials, LinkedIn and Facebook. For the resources mentioned, check out the description. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app. Be sure you're signed up for our weekly Retiring Canada newsletter. And hey, when it comes to your retirement, don't take chances. Make a plan so you can retire with confidence.
All comments are of a general nature and should not be relied upon as individual advice. The views and opinions expressed in this commentary may not necessarily reflect those of Harbourfront Wealth Management. While every attempt is made to ensure accuracy, facts and figures are not guaranteed. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional investing or tax advice. Please seek advice from your accountant regarding anything raised in the content of the podcast regarding your individual tax situation. Always seek the advice of your financial advisor or other qualified financial service provider with any questions you may have regarding your investment planning.